So this little creature was captured, this is the one I was just talking about in the last video, was captured by a trap that was set inside the guy's barn. And as you see there, its fingers got caught, and obviously it was screaming and shouting and everything else, and it couldn't get away. So the guy threw this acid over it, and of course it died. And then it got taken for experiments, etc. Now, a lot of the experiments came back and said, well, as you know, yeah, it's got some human DNA in it, but it's even got a towel, which was a bit weird. They couldn't understand what type of creature it was. Now, the guy eventually turned, the owner of it eventually turned around and said, yeah, no, I faked it. Now, I totally believe he was either pressured into it or was bribed into it, because he was absolutely adamant that this was a real thing. So I believe it was real. Is this a fairy? Now this was captured by a guy that allegedly said it was a real fairy that he found at the end of sort of a mound of dirt somewhere. But the reason why it is fake is because the guy actually turned around the next day and said he deliberately done it, and he explained why he done it. He said he'd done this to see whether people still believe in fairies and pixies. So yeah, this one's a fake one. He was also a magician and an artist, so this gives credibility to it, whereas the last video I did where it was just a farmer, there's no benefit in him creating that little creature. Now there's also the old stories of this girl here, 16 years old, and she drew fairies and took pictures of them and sent them into papers, and the whole world believed they were real, but really they were just pictures that she drew. So yes, some things are fake, unfortunately. US Navy films these triangular ships, well, UFOs. Now I'm showing this as the fact that it's done using night vision cameras. Now these objects, to the naked eye, you could not see them. So I'm still talking about portals and other dimensions. So this is the visible light range that we can see with our eyes. Obviously that UFO is using some sort of technology that we can't see within our visible range. Now red is the lowest we can see, and then it goes into infrared, which is here. Microwaves, these are all still light, even though you're thinking, you know, this ain't right, it's not light, how can that be light? It's all to do with light and frequencies. So the VAL that I was talking about in the other videos, the other side, the upside down, whatever you want to call it, is to do with light, and I'll explain that in the next video. To get to the upside down, the other side, the next val of our, I'm going to have to find a proper name to call this, but if you've watched the other videos you'll understand what I'm talking about. So to get there, it's not a portal, it's because a portal will take you from one place to another. It's just another universe or another dimension that's here, but we can't see it, we're out of phase to it. And the way to actually cross over is using light, as I mentioned in the last video, light frequencies that can actually open and close the dimension. Now let me just tell you a quick story, true story. A group of people were on an expedition to a tribe, I think New Guinea or somewhere like that, and they were going through a forest. The tribesman that was the interpreter said to the tourist type people, is anyone wearing anything yellow? Because if you are, you will go missing. You may have heard of the Philadelphia experiment. Well, this is actually a real thing that actually happened. I'm just going to explain the beginning process of it. So how it all started was these welders, arc welders, that was welding parts of ships together, not the actual Eldridge itself, but they were welding ships in a dockyard or in a shipyard, and their light on their welder machine was so bright that it actually caused the opening of the other dimension, the VAL, whatever you want to call it. So some of their tools, you know, spanners and hammers and whatever else, within that light radius would disappear. So after many times this happening, they worked out that it was to do with the light. So they contact, even though they were an army personnel, they actually contacted the army anyway. The army came in to do experiments, and they did many experiments and found this to be true, which is where it leads on to the USS Eldridge